I'm Joan Landis with you again today, and we are talking about empathy. Empathy is kind of a hot topic in the business world, very interesting. It takes them a little while to catch up with counseling, but it's really important skill to have if you want to build relationships. And we understand that in business, relationships are the thing that make the difference, right? It's really not what you know, it's who you know. And so it's really logical that the business world is finally zeroing on empathy, because empathy is one of the keys to developing a healthy relationship with somebody else. Okay, let's talk about what empathy is not. Empathy is not solving the problem, okay? A lot of people confuse that, and they think that if someone is distressed, that if they solve their problem for them, that is empathizing with them or going to really make that person feel better. That may be true for small children, but for most sentient beings, that actually is kind of insulting. It's like, wait, you think I can't solve my own problem? And there are reasons that a distressed brain does not deal well with someone trying to solve their problems, and that's another discussion, it's another lesson. But trust me on this one, empathy is not going in and solving people's problems. Number two is empathy is not saying, I know how you feel. I know it comes from a good place, but really when someone's in a lot of distress, very few times does that sound comforting. It sounds like they will often respond like, no, you don't. You really don't know how I feel. And so that's probably not our best strategy either, is to say, I know how you feel. So let's talk about what empathy is. Empathy is where you want to get on the same wavelength and the same page as somebody who's distressed, so that you're able to feel what they feel in a way. You're not sympathetic. Sympathetic says, oh, I'm up here, you're down here, and oh, I feel so sorry for you. That's not really empathy. Empathy is, whoa, we are in this together, and I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it with you. And so that's a nice little distinction, the difference between sympathy and empathy, at least in my mind. So empathy, we want to see if we can get on that same level as somebody and feel what they're feeling. The nice thing is the neuroscience tells us that our brains really are wired to be able to catch other people's emotions and help us feel those same things too, and then reflect them back. And so this is a legitimate exercise to do with people. It's not manipulative unless you try to make it so. It's really just being human with each other, is allowing ourselves to feel the distress that someone else has or feel the joy that someone else has. It's just sharing life with each other and not being detached and not being unavailable to each other. It's really what is the core of a good relationship. So we want to be able to feel what they feel and help them know that we want to be right there with them. Okay, there's some really interesting research, and Sue Johnson talks about it in her book Love Sense, which is how attachment affects relationships. But she cites some really neat research that talks about how when we are alone and we're distressed, that our sensation of distress or pain is increased. And so the experiment was to put somebody in put a person in a fMRI machine where they can take pictures of their brain and how the brain is using glucose, and so it heats up in different areas. And then that person was told that they are going to receive a painful sensation, and that they were to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, and then also the scientists were going to look at their brain and how the brain lit up in that fMRI machine. So it was interesting because when they were by themselves and they received that painful sensation, their rating of pain was much higher. It was like 8s and 9s, and their brain would light up more in the pain centers with brighter colors, meaning there was a lot more activity going on in those pain centers. And then they would say, okay, we're going to do this again, but this time you're going to be able to hold the hand of a stranger. You're not going to be alone in your distress. And so they would hold the hand of this stranger, and their perception of their judgment of the pain went down, and their brain calmed down as far as, how much it was lighting up in the pain centers. It's interesting. And then here was the cool thing. Then they said, all right, we're going to do the same pain sensation for you, but this time you are going to be able to hold the hand of your beloved. And it was so amazing how their sensation of pain was much more bearable. It was even lower, and their brain lit up much, much less in the pain centers. And the whole sense of subjective distress was much lowered and mitigated by being together with a loved one in it. Wow. Anybody that's had a baby knows that it's just you want someone there that's got your back, that's going to take care of you, that can be with you in it. And the same is true for any other kind of distress. So I love that research, because that tells us that empathy is doing one of those things to diminish the sense of distress. It's saying, I am with you in this pain. You are not alone in it. And I'm going to help you contain it. So, I love that concept. So here's some just little techniques you can do. One is, you don't want to say, oh, I know just how you feel. What you want to do is actually elicit their feelings more, okay? And so you want to say, wow, how is that for you? How tough is that? What's the hardest part? What's the trickiest part about that? Ooh, what's the part that's that's the most upsetting about that? And as you do that, that will elicit, hopefully, more expressions of feeling, okay? Because in order to empathize with their emotion, you need them to kind of connect a little bit, right? Now, you don't want to force them. You don't want to cajole them or try to persuade them to talk if they're really not ready. But sometimes, if you just ask them, what was the hardest part? Or, where are you feeling it in your body? What part of your body is really under the most pressure right now? And that can be a good one. So those two are good approaches. If you just don't come up with anything, sometimes you can suggest things. You can say, it seems to me like you would be feeling really sad, or it would be really normal to feel really depressed right now. Or it would be really, I would expect you to be grieving so deeply right now. And sometimes if you supply the words and normalize it, then they'll say, yeah, that is how I feel, right? So any of those strategies are a good way to kind of elicit a little bit of emotion so that you can connect with it and agree with it and validate it. You don't want to diminish it, and you don't want to, make them feel crazy at all. You just say, whoa, yeah, I can see how you'd feel that way. Oh, gosh, yeah, got it. So those are some really good strategies to elicit the emotion. Okay, so now what do you do with it? Just a nice little technique is called reflective listening. Reflective listening, especially if you're stuck for something to say, you can just reflect back what they told you. Okay, so they say, I can't believe my fiance just bolted. I can't believe that he left me. Right. So if you don't know what to say, you can always reflect that back, and you say, and you're not parroting it word for word, but you're reflecting back the feeling and the idea. So you'd say something like, oh man, I can't imagine how tough that is to have your fiance just like disappear like that. And how hard would that have been? And you're asking her to elicit some more, right? But just reflect back initially. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's always a fail-safe place, because if you do it right, they'll go, yeah, that is how it was. And then they're connecting with you over that pain or that distress, right? So reflective listening is awesome. Here's another example. So, somebody says, I can't believe, my mom was yelling at me in public like that. I'm so mad. And so you reflect back and you say, ooh, it looks like you're feeling really angry because your mom was saying these really hurtful things, right? So you're not using the exact same words, but you're just reflecting back what they've just given you. It's like they're volleying a tennis ball over to you, and you just volley it back, Okay, and then that you just keep that interaction going, and it can be very comforting and can grow your trust and safety in each other. So there's that. Now, there's another thing called additive empathy, and I really like this concept. This is a little more advanced than reflective listening, and that's where you actually add to whatever they say. So, in other words, you make their case even better than they do. So, if they say, yeah, my fiance just totally left me, and I can't believe it. I'm just by myself right now, and you're like, oh, that I just can't imagine how that is. But you almost feel like you just want to give up on life, right? And you're adding to their empathy. You're giving them voice for even more pain, right? And that's okay. Because maybe that really resonates with them. They're like, yeah, that's right, that really is. I was kind of afraid to say it like that, but seriously, I'm not sure if I can go on, that kind of thing. So that's additive empathy. And then another technique that I love is called the 2-4-6-8 technique. And that's where basically somebody is in distress, is saying 2, 4, 6, and then you can say 8. And what that means to them is, wow, that person was really listening to me. They were really processing it so much that they could tell me the next thing I was almost going to say, or tell me the next thing and how tough it was. So, for instance, if we're staying with a jilted fiance, the fiance is like, oh my gosh, I ordered the invitations. I told everybody I'm going to have to return the gifts. And you go, oh man. And then there's the dress. Oh gosh, I feel so bad, right? So they're talking about the invitations and the gifts and everything. And then you go on and say, yeah, and there's even more, right? And it can be really therapeutic. People are like, wow, you really get me. And then they feel like you've really empathized with them, which you have, right? You've tried to put yourself in their shoes. That's really a mark of empathy. You try to see it from their point of view, feel it from their heart, and really be where they are. And that is so powerful. That way we feel like we are not alone in the world, that somebody really gets us. There's another person that's in it with us. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Empathy is such an important skill. This will change your family tree. It'll change the relationship you have with partners. It can change how you do at work, at career, school, roommates, anything. And so if you will focus on developing empathy, it will really, really bless your life. So for your action item this week, I would really love you to practice reflective listening to somebody, to practice additive empathy, where you go ahead and make it talk about even more distress than they're talking about. And then the 2-4-6-8, where you are listening so well that you can take the next step in the logical discussion. And so have fun with that. Get on the forums, tell us how you're doing and how it worked out. It takes practice. It does. It's all right. The first few times you're going to feel really dumb, really awkward. That's okay. If you need to practice it alone in front of the mirror or in a car while you're driving, go ahead and do it, and have fun with it. And just see if you don't feel more connection with the people around you. I think you will. All right. It's been great being with you. We'll see you on the forums. See you soon. Bye-bye.